clinical issues identified but out of context. You will hear this over and over and over again. It's been in the literature forever and a day. High rates of depression, anxiety, suicidality, substance abuse, sexual dysfunction, and abuse. We've been saying this forever, that these are the clinical issues that we see in our offices for folks with disabilities. What we haven't been saying is the relationship of these issues with the context. So, if I don't have a home, if I can't go to the doctor, if I don't have transportation, that affects how I feel about myself and what I'm able to do and who I can socialize and when and where and how. That can be very depressing. If my city that I live in has transportation that have buses and the lifts break all the time and I'm getting yelled at by passengers on the bus, I might start to get a little anxious and a little angry and a little upset. If my medication isn't adequately treating my chronic pain or I don't have access to pain medication, then I may use substances to treat my pain and to cope and to deal. And if we do the nasty, and I do mean sex, differently, guess what? If my sexual habits look different than Officer and a Gentleman, right? Then I'm labeled with a sexual dysfunction, as opposed to just realizing my sexuality on my own terms.
We call that
That's
adaptive sex play, is what we call it.
And
are you a little
the best ever.
Well, in the event that you didn't know, disabled people actually make more creative lovers. So I don't have the exact numbers.
I heard that rumor too.
Yeah, I heard it actually really is the truth. And why is it? There's really a reason for it, because we're masters at critical thinking and being creative with everything we do. We're constantly on. We're multitasking. We're thinking. How can we do this differently? How can we do that? That carries through to all domains in our life.
The abuse. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to go back to substance abuse at some point.
Okay. So you want to do that first and then abuse?
Sure. So I just want to briefly mention substance abuse is something we know very little about across people with disabilities. And part of it is because of medication. With our traditional abstinence-only models, we haven't fit into those. People who live with chronic pain or on medications that are benzos or other types of medications, narcotics, opiates, to live their life and live a good quality of life have not been included in traditional paradigms. Harm reduction models obviously are much more, we fit more into those. However, there has been a lot of difficulty getting anybody with significant rehabilitation issues into that. We're actually working on that at VA Long Beach right now, proposing a program.
Abuse. We're finally studying the rates of abuse for people with disabilities. Women with disabilities showing higher rates of abuse on all fronts. Sexual abuse have been cited in some studies to be twice as high as those without disabilities. The difference being as well that women with disabilities experiencing multiple assaults. The difference also being that the perps are not necessarily the date rape, but can be the health care providers themselves, the people taking care of them, including family members, van drivers. The stories I hear in my offices, I can't even imagine how this happened, but it's real, and the research is suggesting that. Women with cognitive disabilities, mental retardation, one study has suggested 95%, a rate is high in their particular study. And again, multiple assault, not just one time. The other thing that's important to think about in terms of abuse for people with disabilities is the types of abuse. At one time, we used to call medical neglect. We used to use that a lot. Well, so-and-so experienced medical neglect. If I am denied my medication intentionally, purposefully, to punish me or to put me in my place, that's not neglect, that's abuse. And it's really important to understand the difference. We soften the language sometimes on these abuse cases so not to believe how bad it really is.
And it becomes more complex, of course, because most shelters are not accessible.
Yes.
And so there are very few places for abused people to go. And if it's a choice between having an abuser who's your caregiver versus going to a structured living center or setting,
Yes.
people make different choices. We just have to be aware of people's choices and what their options are or lack thereof.
And the abuse looks different. One more example of abuse. Abuse in the form of not necessarily marks or bruises, things like that. taking a spouse, putting them in their bed, removing their wheelchair, leaving them in that bed for hours and hours and hours, lights off, leaving the house to defecate and urinate on themselves. Now, I just made that up. That represents a high number of the abuse rates. And those are the folks, when you call the domestic violence shelter and say, help me, I need help, they say, call Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services doesn't always know what to do with that either, all right? So, yeah, that's it.
Okay, systemic barriers that remain.
Yeah.
Talking about microaggressions and psychology.
And AP.
Yes.
Now, we're going to qualify this. We are members of APA, and we wouldn't be members of APA if we didn't believe in APA and the work that we do. But we can do better. I can do better. Mona can do better. We can all do better. So this is where we start to say, APA, here's how we can all do better. Okay?
Right. Okay. So, you know, when we think about this, what kind of comes to us as a field? Well, the little or lack of attention given to importance of disability coverage in APA accredited programs and curriculum. We've gotten so much better. We're getting better, but it's still small. No sanctions for absence of disability coverage by APA. Continued difficulties with seeing disability as a diversity variable within the diversity arena. We have done much better about that in the last 10 years, much better. But we want you all to continue to think about that so that we can move the agenda along.
And I certainly, the social privilege, power, the social constructionist approach to disability is in my heart. I challenge everybody to really think about disability in those constructs, considering it, understanding it as within an ableistic context, considering interventions that consider research, services that need to address the power differentials, not just the object, not just the person with a disability. And remember that ableism is a violation of civil rights. It is personal, it is political, it is all of that. Question, ADA, is it a special rights law or a civil rights law? Who in here thinks it's a special rights law? Raise your hand. Who in here thinks it's a civil rights law?
Oh, they're smart psychologists. Yeah. Smart
Your
psychologists.
council failed on this one a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Civil rights, civil rights. If we don't see it as a civil rights law, we do not react. It's a special rights law in a lot of people's mind. No, it is civil. Okay?
Okay, and this is actually the slide that Dr. Williams has been waiting to do all morning, so
No.
I'll let you take it away.
Never
Disability
gonna see
etiquette.
me do this slide. Never going to see me do
Never,
this slide.
so, yeah, so she makes me do it. She does, she makes me do it. Why are we kind of being tongue-in-cheek with this? Disability etiquette feels a little strange to us. Actually, one of my trainees last week had said, you just need to call it, you know, frequently asked questions. It's not really etiquette. We wouldn't say African-American etiquette, you know, LGB etiquette. We wouldn't do that. There's such variation, it seems kind of weird, and we'll just chuckle with that. But there's such a lack of exposure to disability and lack of exposure kind of in proximity, but also in our minds. I'm going to go over, as my former trainee would say, frequently asked questions, or people would like to say disability etiquette. Staring is not okay, in case you didn't know that. We don't stare at people. As my son would say, because he's heard me say it over, you look and you look away, right? We're drawn to things that look different. We are drawn to things that look different. And we are going to look. But let me tell you, people know when you're staring at them. They know it. I've had trainees who cannot get through supervision because they're so uncomfortable with my body. They're so uncomfortable. They're just scanning me. It's like, you know, what is going on here? And there becomes a good moment to talk about that, right? That's a growing moment, but is uncomfortable. We don't say some of our friends are disabled. That's why I know your experience. I know some black people. I know some gay people. I really know it, right? We don't do that.
My favorite.
What?
I saw a dwarf in Florida when I was on vacation. I live in Ohio. Do you know him? I kid you not, one day on the way to work, I got to work, I sat down at my office, put my coat down, my phone started ringing. Hey, did you see him? See who? The little guy on the highway with the broken down motorcycle. Did you see him? 5 phone calls. Did I see the dwarf on the highway with the broken down car? a motorcycle.
You know, similar to people of color, we all look alike, right? Yeah, right.
And we know each other.
We all look alike. Giving assistance, right? When in doubt, ask. People have bad days, so you might go to open the door for somebody and they might say, I've got it, or we never know where somebody is with that. When in doubt, ask. It's okay to ask. I love getting assistance. It makes my life easier. Third parties within interactions, that's within therapy or facilitating in educational settings. We want to be thinking about having a person around who facilitates communication. It's okay to say you don't understand when somebody is verbally communicating or non-verbally communicating and you're not getting it. If you try to pretend that you can hear them, they know that you're not understanding a word that they're saying. It's okay to use words like see to a person with low vision or is blind, or walk to me or Julie. We say roll, we say walk, we use it interchangeably. Watch the terminology, match what people are saying. We always want to do that. We don't touch assistive devices. Ever, unless you are a loving friend of mine. If you are a loving friend of mine, I love it when you grab my chair and you walk down the street and you hold my hand, right? That's what it feels like to me. If you don't know me, I don't really want you doing it. It's part of my body. You know, people will come and hang their jackets on us. They throw stuff in my basket. Please don't do that. We don't rely upon verbal cues. And temperature varies for some people who have temperature regulation issues. Sounds, can we hear things? Can we see things? And yes, rules can vary. Okay, I'm done with etiquette. Done.
And temperament can vary.
Yes.
Not everybody's going to respond to the same way as we are suggesting.
Right. And my favorite topic here, self-assessment.
So self-assessment revisited. I asked you a few questions when we started, and if I asked you to go back to those, we'd be spending a whole class on this right now if we had that time. What I'm going to ask all of you to do is go back to those questions, revisit them, and ask yourself, tell yourself, where are you? Where are you located with disability, and where do you need to go? What do you need to do next? And as a member, a body in the profession, an APA member, how can you make APA a better place for people with disabilities? What do we need to do collectively to make APA a better place for people with disabilities?
Okay, and let me just say, I love APA. I do. Everyone says, why do you spend all this time? Like some of the people I love the most and I admire the most and inspire me are within APA. We have done a great job with furthering the disability agenda. We had Women with Disabilities conference this year in conjunction with APA and Gallaudet. Dr. Miles Cohen is here. This is us very furiously networking and processing at this conference. We have done all kinds of things. The National Multicultural Conference and Summit has consistently now, over the last several years, included themes around disability programming, all kinds of really great stuff. The Committee on Disability Issues and Psychology, of course, the committee that falls under BIAPI, long history, done amazing work. If you don't know about this committee, or you're afraid or scared of them, we invite you into that fear, and many of us are good clinicians, and we can help you with that. We've got some good evidence-based treatment for you for that, and we want to welcome you into our lives and embrace you and help further your knowledge and your efforts with supporting disability issues.
That's just a review.
Right.
There's
Okay.
nothing new there. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So where are we going with disability and some of the disability paradigm shifts? I showed you some of the images that are troubling and problematic. I want to show you some new images and some people who are leading the movement and where we're going and who we need to be deferring to and letting them guide us. Dr. Erin Andrews, who's in our audience, gave us a permission to show this image of her. Licensed psychologist, board-certified rehab psychologist, celebrating motherhood and all the other roles as well, and advocating fiercely for people with disabilities and reproductive rights as well.
And a member of CDIP.
Yep. We have images of youth that's different now, challenging the idea of pity and playfulness and making youth a realized experience and playful. It doesn't have to be the sad poster child. Next. Images of women as strong, as athletic, as beautiful with their disabilities. And women sexualized or sexy or sensual. This is a controversial image. Whenever I pop it up, I have one half of the audience that says, rock on. Then the other half says, ooh, kind of sexualizing that woman. What are we doing here? Whatever it is, it's a different image, the face of disability being challenged by some of the old images. By the way, that prosthetic device, just so no one has any illusions about how much that would cost, your everyday common person would not be able to afford that prosthetic device, and Medicaid, Medicare, I guarantee, would not fund that particular device, just so you know. All right? Other images and voices, Deadly Perception. This is a person, Diane Coleman, who speaks about that scary, slippery slope on right to die issues. She advocates fiercely for the idea that until we have mitigated and corrected some of the social inequities in our healthcare, our housing, our environment, we cannot truly know if people are operating on freedoms and choices, particularly when we know that people are being offered right to die, not for terminal illnesses, but for severe disabilities. Quote, severe disabilities, not necessarily things they're dying from. Not Dead Yet is an organization to do some research on and get additional information about that.